Hi guys, welcome to another episode of About Ukraine, where we drop truth bombs all about Ukraine. In today's topic, we're gonna ask the all-important question that everybody has here in Ukraine, and that is, should you have your lawyer on speed dial here in Ukraine? Today, I have a guest with me, Sergey. He's a lawyer, and Sergey, can you tell me a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I've been practicing law since 2006. For the last 3 years, I'm running my own law firm here in Kyiv, Ukraine. We do litigation, liaison with police and other state authorities. So if you're interested in how to deal with police and all this stuff, yeah, we can discuss this.
You deal quite a lot with immigration, right? And also corporate law. So what's the biggest percentage of what you're dealing with?
Yeah, me personally, in our law firm, I do deal mostly with immigration, with corporate contracts and other business things. My other partners in the law firm, they deal with litigation, with police, real estate, taxation.
For most foreigners, the situation is as follows. Like, once they get the legal papers done, they get the immigration, they think the hurdle is over. But the reality is, right, the real fun starts when you actually have to deal with all these day-to-day things that you have to kind of prepare yourself against. So once you get your legal papers in order, you get everything sorted out, what are the questions that are going to appear in your head? The first one probably will be, what is the difference between the paralegal, a lawyer, a notary, in the US, right? Most people just know a lawyer will take care of everything, but you have to have a lawyer for a certain thing. And a notary public is somebody that will just make sure that the document is okay. Paralegal also has like legal authority. But what about Ukraine?
Yeah, and actually in the UK, for example, they have also solicitors, barristers, right? Other specialization of legal professionals. It's a little bit simpler here in Ukraine. Lawyers, that a lawyer is anyone who has education in law, a diploma. And then you can choose your specialization. You can be a notary. You can keep working as a lawyer, like as a house lawyer, or as an individual contractor, like you have your own law firm, your own practice. But you don't need any special license or permit to do this. You can get a special license to become a litigating attorney. Here we call them advocates. Right now, only advocates can represent you in court, especially in relations against police and in criminal administrative cases. And there are some other subcategories, let's say. So, for example, a liquidator, it's a lawyer who is licensed to do liquidation of companies. If a company gets bankrupt, then you need this person to take care of the company.
That is really interesting that you do have the same sort of structure when it comes to lawyers that are responsible for a certain area that you should consult with if you have a problem in that area. But what about the average person, like the average Joe that is going around his business? He will need a lawyer too at one point. Like, I mean, you have things like traffic tickets. I know back in the West, people usually hire traffic lawyers. But usually, like, to get you off like a really high speeding charge. Like, for example, if you're about to lose your license and you can get a very high insurance premium or something, and it's better to invest in a traffic cop to help you with that. What about in Ukraine? Here you have a lot of speed cameras. Can you really contest that, or not really?
In order to decide whether it's worth of any legal proceedings, you need to, first of all, understand the fine, because a lawyer obviously will not work for you for free. And if we're talking about getting to court, then probably, like in most of the cases, it will be more expensive than to pay a fine. Of course, if they are going to take your driving license from you, then probably it's worth of going to court in a traffic accident, for example, etc. Or when the damage is expensive, because you need to deal with your insurance company, and again, you don't want to mess up this thing. So in this case, of course, a lawyer is very recommended, and like in 90% of cases, this case will go to court, and here you better get this advocate who can represent you in court. If it's just a simple traffic ticket, for example, for overspeeding, if your light bulb got broken, which happened to me recently, in this case you don't necessarily need to go to court. You can appeal this decision if you believe that it was not justified. You can appeal it out of court to the superior authority. If the ticket was not justified, you were right, then you have pretty good chances to win.
Getting into an accident, let's say in Ukraine, a police officer will usually come. They will sort of determine who's at fault. When you get in an accident, people usually don't move the cars; they just keep them where they are.
Actually, every driver has to have a special insurance, right? So you have this insurance blanks. You just take it out, fill out the blank. The other party, the other driver does the same. Then you just send that blanks to your insurance companies. If all the parties involved, of the drivers involved, they agree on this, any of them do not agree, doesn't agree to deal without police, or it's a more serious accident, then of course you should call police. Police will come. You don't touch anything, you don't move the cars, you wait for the police, they will come, they will take photos, they will do other stuff. And
about fault, because I know some jurisdictions, like in Canada, for example, we have no fault insurance, so fault is not assigned to anyone. Insurance companies usually deal with each other. In Ukraine, if you're at fault, what consequences do you have? Like your insurance premium can go up, or you just have to pay lots of money?
In traffic accidents, there is always someone's fault, and even sometimes it happens that both drivers were in fault for this traffic accident, but both of them are, let's say, guilty in this situation. Even if it was your fault and your insurance covers the damage completely, then you are lucky. If the damage exceeds your insurance coverage, then of course the insurance company can this amount of money, and the exceeding amount you'll cover with your own money. And of course there are cases when the insurance companies refuse to cover the damage because a driver could be drunk, there is snow outside, and you are supposed to have winter tires now on your car. So if you are driving a car with summer tires, then it's also like a reason for the insurance company to reject your...
In the US, there's a thing that has been going on. It's called a defund the police, because there's not a lot of trust in police. And you know what? Everybody has got a bad experience with a police officer. And Ukraine is not a country that has a good track record when it comes to, authority figures. My question is, let's say you get pulled over, yes, for a broken light bulb, yes, for a little crack in the windshield or something like that, or they just the police officer does have maybe a valid reason to stop you, but you don't feel that it's valid, it's justified, and you just wasted your time. And what can you do in that situation? I've seen some people advise people to print out a little form where they can, in Ukrainian, where you can actually fill out a complaint against that officer, or you can film them all the time. They say you have to film your police officer on camera on your cell phone. What would you say is a good thing to do if you don't really agree that you're getting that ticket?
Well, first of all, I do accept that such police harassment happens.
Yeah. Yeah. It's this dash cam phenomenon, right? Somebody told me, in the US, people look at dash cam videos in Russia and they're like, no, this is like hell on earth. I can't believe anybody can even safely get behind the wheel. But the reality is, if 90 or 80% of the people have dash cams, they will record the accident, right? They will record some event and they will put it up. So it's just everybody's just recording, but I don't think that they get more accidents than they do in other countries, right?
Yeah, and about the course of action in such a situation. My personal view and how I deal with such a situation when, for example, I'm stopped by a police officer, and I don't think that that was justified. First of all, I try to talk with them the normal way. Of course, I'm not a believer in this camera thing. You provoke him. It's better to talk normally. If you know that you are right, try to explain why you think that they are doing. They stop you. They are trying to issue a ticket, and it's illegal. And if it doesn't work, and they are they still want to issue a ticket, there is no way you can do anything at the spot. So the right way, you just take the ticket and then you go to court, or you go to appeal to a higher to superior authority, and you prove that you are right in the situation after that. But getting into a fight with police, I believe, is a bad idea, because at this situation, a police officer has his own idea of the situation, and he has authority. Basically, he is a representative of the state. If you behave aggressively, or you may look suspicious, even if it's not the case, but a police officer can say that that was the situation, and he can apply some force, and I don't think you want this. So it's better to deal with the situation at home, maybe with a lawyer, instead of being beaten or arrested and trying to call your lawyer from jail.
What is the small claims court like in Ukraine? For example, if you have some disagreement with someone regarding like some contract that you guys had regarding like a business, it's probably something that you deal with a lot, and things like unpaid salaries, perhaps. This is more with workplace law and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we don't have this, but we have written procedure, which is basically the same. So if the value of this claim is not high, which is determined by the law, there are some thresholds.
Some tiers, yeah.
Yeah, your case is within the scope of this amount, right? Then the court will consider your case without calling you and the other party to a hearing. So you will not need to visit a court room. You file a lawsuit, or you receive a lawsuit from the plaintiff if you are a defendant, and the judge will study the documents that were provided by the plaintiff.
And what about like tort law? Like, let's say you want to sue someone for inaction or negligence. The government is probably a big one. Let's say there's a lot of potholes. In a country like Canada, for example, they may have a mechanism where, let's say, you get damage to your wheel or car because of a pothole that was unavoidable, for example, and they could probably go and sue the government for it, and then the government will consider it and do the procedure. There's another example is like snow, right? We're having snow right now. You have a snow plow that kind of goes in and he scratches your car, right? I mean,
yeah, you can definitely go to court with this claim. It's not that popular or widespread in Ukraine, and the main reason is it's very difficult to get money from any state authority. Even if you prove that they were guilty or that was their fault, usually they don't have money, because you get money not from the state budget but from the budget of this organization usually, and really it's financially it's just not reasonable in most of the cases. That will be the local municipality, municipal authorities who are responsible for cleaning.
But you're like so calm about it. Everything seems to work nicely and smoothly. Or maybe you're just trying to paint a nice picture. Say an expired food product, right? Let's say you want to complain to someone. You can complain to a food protection agency or consumer protection agency that you can complain to.
There are many state authorities, many state bodies that are responsible for certain areas. If we're talking about food and products you buy, any stuff you buy from a shop, and that product is of bad quality or whatever else, in this case you can, for example, complain to the customer protection agency. If you have some issues with airlines, you can complain to the aviation state agency. If you have some problems with train transportation or another means of transportation, you can complain to the Ministry of Transport, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, but I'm guessing these will have to be pretty compelling big cases, not just you buy some fruit from the market.
Well, it depends again. There are people who just love to complain, love to sue, love to protect their rights. So if you got a bottle of yogurt and it was expired, you can complain Most probably they will initiate an inspection of this shop, and there are good chances they will find this shop. But what you
what will gain? Yeah, nothing. You may be better off just going back to the store and they'll happy they're gonna give you a refund or a credit or something like that.
You definitely shouldn't think about some moral damage.
Yeah, moral compensation and like distress and emotional distress, and I think that sort of maybe even terminology doesn't even exist in Ukrainian.
Well, it exists, but practically it's not reasonable.
Yeah. Okay, now to the most important question: how much would a lawyer cost? I mean, it's very broad, of course, but you do bring up an important point about cost-benefit sort of analysis you should make, like if you get like a traffic fine for 300 hryvnias, for example.
I can comment on Kyiv prices because Kyiv is one of the most expensive cities in Ukraine, and obviously prices here will be probably higher than in other cities and regions of Ukraine. In Kyiv, an average legal fee is around $100 per hour. If we're talking about like proper law firms who can litigate, you understand that you cannot charge a client per hour. For example, for drafting a complaint, let's say again to this customer protection agency, you understand that you will work on this complaint maybe for 4 or 5 hours, and in this case the fee will be just so for such types of legal work, usually law firms and lawyers, they have fixed fees. Hourly rate should be higher, the fee will be probably less.
So let's talk a little bit more about some of the things that can happen to you. Let's say if you're ignorant of the law or if you're like negligent of the law. There's some mechanism for also the government to arrest your bank account, right? Finally, let's say you get like a bunch of fines, like you don't pay your bills, let's say for like half a year or maybe longer than that. I've even heard of a situation where some guy like in some Range Rover had a few $1,000s worth of fines towed away to the parking lot somewhere.
I would say further, there are two types of situations in general. One is when you have some debt and it could be automatically collected from your bank account. For example, you don't pay for your bills, or you have this alimony is not paid. The other situation is when there was a court decision where you lost, and you have some debt, don't pay this debt, and in this case, the winning party needs to go to the special enforcement agency. So they collect the debts, and they can. There is a certain procedure. So first, they look at the money on your bank account, and they arrest this bank account and try to get money, even if you don't obviously want to give this money to them. If there is no money on the bank account, then they are looking for another property that you have.
But this has to be done with a court decision, right? There is something that has happened to me and maybe some other people that I've known as well. DIYA is this application that you can register yourself with. If you don't pay a fine, or you do pay a fine, but they don't register it in the DIYA, they can give you this something called виконавче провадження, which is they sort of push this fine into a collections, not a collections agency, but it goes through another instance of initiate the process of going after your account. But from what I can hear is that they have no legal right to.
How it works with traffic fines, for example, to traffic tickets. So you got a traffic ticket and you're given a certain number of days to pay it or to appeal it to court. And if you don't do this penalty, this fine is considered settled. So in this case, police, in general terms, takes this case, goes to this enforcement agency and says, okay, there is this guy, he has a fine, he doesn't pay, he didn't appeal, and he doesn't pay. Enforcement agency, they arrest your bank account and collect the money from your bank account. Yeah. There are mobile applications, there are chatbots that of police, and you can type there your information and it will provide you with
we can leave them in the description, these links to these chatbots and whatnot.
I would like to mention that it doesn't happen often, really. You shouldn't worry that you'll get into such situation.
And as we all know, bad news, they get resonance, they get spread fast, and people people panic, and especially if you're like a foreigner, you don't know the reality, you don't know what's happening on the ground. You may think that this is like common practice here. But what about like the worst thing that can happen to you? Like, what is the likelihood of getting thrown in jail? Like, yeah, especially like marijuana. For example, in Canada, they've legalized it for a while now, and you can buy it at an official store or dispensary, but you have to pay taxes on it, and it's like super expensive. But that's what I've been hearing. But in other countries, like you can get, literally, like in maybe Thailand or something, you can get thrown in jail.
About marijuana, I'm not specialized in such type of things and about marijuana, but as far as I understand, yes, if you carry something like this, then you can get into jail. The only thing is I would comment here, even when it's a criminal offense, provides for some sentence in jail, it doesn't mean that you will serve the sentence. If it was your first offense, your criminal record before that was clear, basically a nice person, right? You haven't done anything bad before this case, you won't get a real sentence. You'll get kind of like a probation.
Right. You have a sort of a 3-strike system that you have in the U.S. I mean, many countries have their own system, but like in yours, you know, the first time you do something is like a very lenient, you get no prison time, you just have a fine, maybe some community service, but like the third one, you get thrown in jail and that's it.
It's mostly it's up to the judge to decide. The judge takes into account all the facts and evidence, and as I said, if you have kids, for example, the judge will also take this into account because no one wants to leave kids without a parent, and so on and so forth.
So the last question that I want to ask you, and probably like the one to bring the point home. So is it really worth for a foreigner to have someone like you on speed dial? Like, in what cases will they need the services of a lawyer?
I would say that it's the same for a foreigner and for a Ukrainian citizen. If you get into some legal relationship, legal things, then most probably you should better have a lawyer.
Mm-hmm. Well, for example, what about purchasing real estate? It's a really hot topic, and I've actually made a video about this on my channel before. You can check it out. From my opinion, based on facts as well, but it's basically why I think that you should never ever get a real estate involved and notary involved. You should always get a real estate lawyer involved in a real estate deal because, like I said, many foreigners, they have their own idea of what things should be like back home. And back home, a real estate agent is licensed, it's regulated. You know, if they don't pass an exam, they will not get a real estate license, and that is because they have some responsibility for the client. They cannot just just recommend the house, get a commission, and then like, okay, I wipe my hands off this problem, right? So yeah, like in many cases in Ukraine, you should get a lawyer, right? Like when you're doing big purchases, for example, like a house, dealing with business contracts.
Yeah, let's talk about real estate transactions because they are quite often, and people, foreigners, really ask about this all the time. So there is one person on the social networks. He is a foreigner, and he kind of like always comment that don't hire a real estate broker, don't hire a lawyer, just you'll deal with a notary and it will be fine. It's enough to have only a notary, and you cannot go away from a notary because it's any sale and purchase transaction regarding real estate objects is always notarized. So a notary will look at the documents, will check the title of the ownership, and so on and so forth. So a notary will do a big part of the work here. But the notary's job is to make sure that the seller can sell and the buyer can buy. The notary doesn't care about what will happen after the deal is closed and what problems could arise for the buyer after he buys this real estate.
So in many ways, it seems to me that it protects the seller 100% almost, but not the buyer, because the seller gets some money, right?
Mostly, yes.
And the buyer is left on the hook in the worst case.
Mostly, yes. And Ukraine has its own common things in real estate transactions. Usually it's done in cash, usually it's done in US dollars. Usually parties tend to lower the purchase price officially in order to save on taxes and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm. These peculiarities are very Ukrainian, and you also have to consider them and the risks that they may pose in your transaction. Right.
If you buy from a developer, for example, or an apartment in a newly built building, there are many more things to check, and what a notary will not check for sure. And you can buy. There is this building, it's built. There is this apartment, it's built. You can buy it. It has ownership documents, but the issues with electricity, with heating, with water, with the managing company that operates this building, and so on.
Of course. But so would a lawyer help someone like that? Let's say I'm a foreigner and I don't really I'm not really sure how to go around all this, checking all these things. But
yeah, definitely a good part, and I personally recommend to use a real estate broker. Unfortunately, we don't have this licensing of real estate brokers. I believe that's a good thing, because really there are many not professionals on the market. They're just looking for ads on the internet and and offer these objects to a buyer, which is not only thing that a real estate broker should do, but still. So you can deal without a lawyer and a real estate broker, but I can bake bread myself, but yes. I buy it from a shop, and that's the same thing. You can deal. If the question is, can you buy an apartment without a lawyer and a real estate broker? Yeah, you can, but do you know the risks involved? Will you save that much money here, and is it that safe that you believe that it's better to deal with this transaction by yourself? I don't think so.
Right. So that's a very good point. And on that note, thank you so much for taking the time, Sergey, here. And for sure, your firm is Legal Ideas, right? Yes. And again, you offer immigration, business consulting as well.
Yeah, setting up companies, servicing companies, but basically any legal service for a company, for your business, and immigration of visas, residencies, immigration permits, all this stuff.
These are all very useful things to get done here in Ukraine if you're planning on staying here long term. So thank you so much for taking the time, Sergey, again. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.